Hi, my name is Chris Johnson. I'm Braxton Brettle's grandfather, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about some history in Mobile that many of the people in this area, or for that matter in the Southeast, know little about. It's in the early 1970s, maybe the late 1960s. I remember as a child riding up the Mobile River with my mother and father. We were going up the Mobile River just north of what's now Africatown Bridge. And my father was telling me he was wanting to show me the ghost fleet. And that was a term that intrigued me, as well as put a little bit of fear into me. Why do I want to see a ghost fleet? So as we continued on up the river, there were many ships anchored above there. So that always intrigued me as a child. So later on in life, when I was a young teenager, I did a little more research on this and found the story very fascinating. So the origins of the Ghost Fleet were that during World War II, German U-boats were sinking supply ships in the Atlantic faster than they could be built. So around 1941, a new class of ship known as Liberty ships or Victory ships were being built. Many of those ships were built right here in the Mobile area at one of two different shipyards. One was the Alabama Dry Dock and Shipbuilding Company, and the other was Gulf Shipbuilding Corporation. So by the end of the war, there were over 2,700 ships that had been constructed at these two local shipyards. So when the war ended, the majority of these ships were, the decision was, where are we going to put these ships? What are we going to do with these ships? So again, after the war ended, it was decided that these ships should be kept for future conflicts, just in case they were needed for supply boats and so forth, as they were during World War II. So Mobile was chosen as one of the places to keep these ships. So a channel was dredged in the Mobile River, up the Tensaw River, up near what's today known as Gravine Island. So this was chosen because the water was fresh and it's not, it doesn't have a lot of corrosion like salt water, so the ships could be maintained well. The original 325 ships that were brought up to the Mobile River, they were all anchored side by side. I remember that very vividly, looking at these ships anchored side by side. And if you take that 325 ships, if you would have put those end to end, those ships would have stretched over 27 miles long, the train of ships. So as these ships were being kept there, many of these ships, as many as 800 of these ships, came in and out of Mobile and were called into service during the Korean and the Vietnam Wars, and as well as used in humanitarian efforts in the Berlin crisis in the early 1960s. The U.S. Maritime Organization, which took care of these ships, ordered the phasing out of this Ghost Fleet in 1970. At that time, there were only 101 ships remaining, and most of those ships were towed out of Mobile. A few of them were moved to Beaumont, Texas. They were re-modernized there to where they could be used in service as needed. The rest of them were all sold as scrap. In 1973, the last of these 15 ships that were in the Ghost Fleet in Mobile were dismantled. They were towed out to the Gulf of Mexico, and they were sunk. And there they still remain today, and many fishermen fish off these ships, these reefs, artificial reefs created by ships today. Many people don't know this story of the Ghost Fleet, but I always found it intriguing as a child. Thank you very much.